Okay. Before we even say hello, David, quick question. Have you ever been standing in line at a coffee shop and in your head you've got this whole perfect sentence ready to go, and then the barista looks at you and it just vanishes?
Sarah, that is my entire life, every single day.
Right? And that, my friends, is exactly what we're talking about today. Welcome back to English FB, everybody. I'm Sarah.
And I'm David. And honestly, that coffee shop thing happened to me literally this morning. So this episode is basically therapy for me, too.
Well, you're in good company because today's topic is one of the most common things our listeners message us about. That feeling where you understand everything, movies, songs, YouTube videos, no problem. But the second you open your mouth to actually speak, it's like your brain just hits a wall.
I can understand English, but I can't speak it. I feel like I could put that on a t-shirt at this point. We hear it so much.
Seriously. But here's the good news. This is completely normal. It happens to almost every learner, and there are real, practical reasons why it happens. So today, we're going to dig into why that gap exists, and more importantly, what you can actually do to close it.
I love that we're doing this one because I actually went through this myself years ago, and I still remember exactly what it felt like.
Oh, tell me.
Okay, so picture this. I'm at a party, right? Everyone's speaking English, and I understand every single word, like I'm laughing at the jokes at the right time. I'm nodding along. But somebody turns to me and asks me a direct question, and I just freeze, like a computer that needs to restart.
The classic freeze.
The classic freeze. And it's so frustrating because in your head, you know you're not stupid. You understand the language, but your mouth and your brain are just not talking to each other yet.
That's such a good way to put it, actually. Your mouth and your brain not talking to each other. And there's a real reason for that, David. It's not random. One of the biggest culprits is just a lack of speaking practice. Think about it. Listening is passive. You can sit there, half asleep even, and still absorb English. But speaking is active. Your brain has to build the sentence, choose the words, and physically produce the sounds, all in real time.
It's like the difference between watching someone cook and actually cooking yourself.
Exactly. You can watch 100 cooking videos and still burn rice the first time you try it yourself because watching and doing use completely different muscles.
Okay, that hit way too close to home. I have absolutely burned rice.
We're not talking about your cooking today, David. We're talking about English. Stay focused.
Fair. Okay, so lack of practice is one reason. What's the other big one?
The other massive one is fear. Fear of making mistakes. And this one is sneaky because it doesn't feel like a language problem. It feels like a me problem. You start thinking, what if I say something wrong? What if people laugh? What if I sound silly? And that fear can completely shut down someone who actually knows the grammar and the vocabulary perfectly well.
It's kind of like standing at the edge of a swimming pool, right? You know how to swim, technically. You've watched videos, you understand the theory, but actually jumping in, that first splash is terrifying.
That's such a good comparison because the water always feels colder before you jump in than it actually is once you're in it.
Yes, and nobody drowns from being embarrassed. That's the thing we forget.
Nobody drowns from being embarrassed. I'm stealing that.
It's yours now, free of charge.
There's actually a third thing too, and this one's a bit sneakier, mental translation. A lot of learners translate every sentence in their head first, from their own language into English, before they say anything out loud.
Oh, that one is exhausting. I did that for years. Someone would ask me something simple, like, how was your weekend? And internally, I'm doing this whole translation project in my head before a single word comes out.
And by the time you've translated it perfectly, the conversation has already moved on to a completely different topic.
The conversation train has left the station, and you're still standing on the platform with your perfect sentence.
That's exactly it. And that's why real fluency isn't about translating faster. It's about training your brain to think directly in English, so there's no middleman slowing things down.
Okay, so real talk. How do people actually build that? Like, what's step one?
Step one, honestly, is just accepting that the fear is normal and choosing to speak anyway. You don't wait for the fear to disappear completely because it might not right away. You just decide the conversation matters more than the fear.
Start small too, right? Like you don't need to go debate philosophy in English on day one.
Exactly. Start tiny. Practice with a friend or, and I know this sounds funny, practice talking to yourself in the mirror.
Okay, wait, does that actually work? Because I always thought that was just something people say in books.
It really does work, and here's why. When you talk to yourself in a mirror, you can actually see your own facial expressions, your mouth movements, and it builds this weird but real confidence because you're watching yourself communicate successfully. It feels less scary because there's no one there to judge you, but it's still active practice, not passive listening.
That's actually kind of genius. And I bet recording your own voice helps too.
Huge help. A lot of people hate hearing their own recorded voice at first. Everyone does, by the way. That's completely normal. But if you push past that awkward feeling, you start noticing your own patterns. Oh, I always hesitate before this kind of sentence, or I mispronounce this particular sound. You can't fix what you can't hear.
Small, achievable goals too, right? Like, today I'll learn 5 new words, instead of today I will become fluent.
Yes, exactly. Because become fluent is so huge and vague that it's actually demotivating. But I'll start one small conversation today. That's doable, and it feels like a win when you actually do it.
And can we talk about mistakes for a second? Because I think this is honestly the biggest one.
Please go for it.
Mistakes are not the enemy. They're literally how the whole system works. Every single fluent speaker you've ever admired made thousands of mistakes to get there. Thousands. It wasn't optional for them. It was the actual path.
I love thinking of them as stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. Like each mistake is actually a stone that gets you one step further across the river, not a hole you fall into. Ooh, I like that. And even a conversation that ends in total confusion, where you completely misunderstood each other, that still counts as a win because you practiced, you were brave enough to speak, and your brain got stronger just from trying. Every conversation is a victory, basically. Win or lose.
Exactly.
All right, before we keep going, I want to pause for just a second because I actually want to tell you both a little bit about why we even started this podcast in the first place, since we've got some newer listeners joining us this week. Hey, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Yes, welcome. So, quick story. EnglishFB actually started because Sarah and I, we've both been...
Ooh, I like that. And even a conversation that ends in total confusion, where you completely misunderstood each other, that still counts as a win because you practiced, you were brave enough to speak, and your brain got stronger just from trying. Every conversation is a victory, basically. Win or lose.
Exactly.
All right, before we keep going, I want to pause for just a second because I actually want to tell you both a little bit about why we even started this podcast in the first place, since we've got some newer listeners joining us this week. Hey, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Yes, welcome. So, quick story. EnglishFB actually started because Sarah and I, we've both been in that exact freeze at the coffee shop moment ourselves, more times than we'd like to admit.
Oh, way more times.
And we realized that so much English content out there feels like sitting in a classroom. Very stiff, very repeat after me, and honestly kind of boring if we're being real. So we built EnglishFB to feel like this, like 2 friends hanging out, joking around, telling real stories, and just happening to learn some English along the way, without it feeling like homework. Ooh, I like that. And even a conversation that ends in total confusion, where you completely misunderstood each other, that still counts as a win because you practiced, you were brave enough to speak, and your brain got stronger just from trying.
Every conversation is a victory, basically. Win or lose.
Exactly.
All right. Before we keep going, I want to pause for just a second because I actually want to tell you both a little bit about why we even started this podcast in the first place, since we've got some newer listeners joining us this week. Hey, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Yes, welcome. So, quick story. EnglishFB actually started because David and I, we've both been in that exact freeze at the coffee shop moment ourselves, more times than we'd like to admit.
Oh, way more times.
And we realized that so much English content out there feels like sitting in a classroom, very stiff, very repeat after me, and honestly, kind of boring if we're being real. So we built EnglishFB to feel like this, like 2 friends hanging out, joking around, telling real stories, and just happening to learn some English along the way, without it feeling like homework.
That's really the whole goal. We want you to finish an episode and realize, wait, I actually picked up new words and expressions, but it felt like I was just listening to 2 friends chat, not sitting through a lesson.
And that's genuinely why we love doing this every week, because we get messages from people saying, I finally said a full sentence in English without freezing. And honestly, that's the best part of this whole thing.
It really is. Okay, back to it. David, let's talk about actually practicing daily, even when you're totally alone, because not everyone has a native speaker sitting around ready to chat.
Right. And this is where it gets kind of fun, actually. One of my favorite tricks is narrating your own day, like you're the host of a nature documentary about your own life.
Please give me an example right now.
Okay, here we see David entering the kitchen at 7 a.m., searching desperately for coffee. Notice his slow, uncoordinated movements. This is a creature who has clearly not yet had caffeine.
That is so specific. I love it.
It genuinely works, though. It forces you to describe real actions in real time, using real vocabulary, without any pressure, because nobody's listening. It's just you and your imaginary documentary crew.
And reading out loud is another underrated one. It's simple, but it trains your mouth muscles to actually produce English sounds, which is different from just recognizing them when you hear them.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. And it connects to something. Do you know the actual word for the ability to speak smoothly and easily without a lot of stopping and stumbling?
That would be fluency. Someone who has fluency can just let the words flow out naturally without translating or searching for each word.
Exactly, fluency. And reading out loud every day is one of the simplest ways to build toward that because you're training your mouth and your ear at the same time.
Talking to pets counts too, by the way, if anyone's wondering. Or plants. Genuinely.
Okay, but seriously, my dog has heard more of my English practice than most humans at this point.
And he's never once judged you for a mistake, which honestly is more than I can say for some humans.
Low bar, but a fair point.
Now, here's a tip I really believe in: mimicking people you admire. Like, choose a speaker whose voice or style you genuinely enjoy, an actor, a podcaster, whoever, and try copying not just their words, but their rhythm, their pauses, even the way their voice rises and falls.
It's not about copying to be funny. It's about absorbing the actual music of the language, if that makes sense.
Perfectly said, actually. The music of the language. And here's a bonus. This kind of mimicking naturally teaches you casual expressions and slang that textbooks usually skip completely because you're learning from how people actually talk, not how a textbook says they should talk.
Speaking of expressions people actually use, Sarah, I want to bring in something my grandmother used to say because it fits so perfectly here.
Oh, I love when you bring in your grandmother's sayings. Go for it.
So there's this old saying, practice makes perfect. Simple, right? Everyone's heard it 1,000 times. But I actually didn't understand it until I was maybe 19, learning to drive a manual car, stick shift, for the first time.
Oh no, manual cars are terrifying.
Terrifying. The first week, I stalled the engine at almost every single traffic light. People honking, me sweating, completely embarrassed. My grandmother was in the passenger seat the whole time, incredibly patient. And every single time I stalled, she'd just calmly say, "Practice makes perfect, David. Nobody drives smoothly on day one." And I swear, by week 3, I wasn't even thinking about the gears anymore. My hands just knew what to do.
That gave me chills a little bit, honestly, because it's exactly the same with speaking English. Nobody speaks smoothly on day 1. You stall out, people notice. It's a little embarrassing. But by week 3 or month 3, your mouth just starts knowing what to do without you consciously thinking about every single word.
Exactly the same lesson, just with words instead of gears.
Okay, moving on. Let's talk about turning passive learning into active learning, because I think this is where a lot of people get stuck without realizing it.
Right, because a lot of learners think, I watch English shows every day, I listen to English music constantly, I should be fluent by now. But watching and listening on their own are passive activities. Your brain absorbs the language, but it never has to produce anything.
It's like the difference between reading 100 recipes and actually cooking one meal yourself.
Back to cooking again.
I contain multitudes, David. But seriously, one easy way to flip passive into active is reflection. After you watch a show or read something, ask yourself a question about it in English and actually try to answer it out loud, even alone in your room.
Or try shadowing.
That's when you repeat what a speaker says almost at the exact same time they're saying it, copying their rhythm and pronunciation as closely as you can.
Subtitles help too, actually, if you use them the smart way. Turning on English subtitles, not your own language's subtitles, connects the sounds you're hearing directly to the written words, which really reinforces everything.
And here's a small phrase that fits perfectly with all of this. Practice what you preach. It basically means you should actually do the things you tell other people to do, or the things you believe in, not just talk about them.
Oh, that's a great one to bring in here, because we can literally say, we're not just telling you to speak more, we're practicing what we preach right now by having this whole conversation out loud instead of just reading facts off a page.
Exactly. We're walking the walk, not just talking the talk, which, by the way, is basically the same idea as another phrase.
True. Similar spirit. Okay, let's shift to something really practical. How do you actually start a conversation with someone in English, especially if you're nervous?
This is honestly the hardest part for so many people, that very first sentence.
It really is, but there are some easy, low-pressure starters. Asking about food, for one. Everyone has an opinion about where to find the best pizza or the best burger or their favorite local spot.
Food is genuinely the universal conversation starter in every language, in every country.
Absolutely true. Asking about movies or shows people enjoy works well too. It's low pressure, and it usually leads somewhere interesting.
Hobbies are great too. What do you like doing in your free time? Almost always leads to a longer conversation because people love talking about things they're actually passionate about.
And if you're shy, starting with a genuine compliment works beautifully. Commenting on someone's jacket or their bag, something small and real. It softens the whole interaction.
Just make sure it's actually genuine, not forced, because people can tell the difference immediately.
Definitely. And here's a small but powerful trick. Ask open questions instead of yes or no questions. Instead of, did you enjoy the concert? Try, what did you think about the concert? One invites a single word answer. The other invites an actual story.
That tiny change makes such a massive difference in how a conversation flows.
It really does. All right, David, let's land this plane and talk about confidence, because honestly, I think it ties everything we've said together.
Confidence really is the secret ingredient, isn't it? It's not just some nice feeling. It directly changes how well you actually communicate.
It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. If you believe you can hold a conversation, you hesitate less, you second-guess yourself less, and the words come out smoother, almost naturally.
And confidence is built exactly the way we've been describing this whole episode. Small goals, celebrating tiny wins, like understanding a full movie without subtitles, or getting through one conversation without translating in your head even once.
Those little victories add up so much faster than people expect.
They really do. And mistakes are still part of that whole process, even here. Every mistake you make while trying is proof that you're actually in the arena, actually trying, instead of sitting safely on the sidelines.
I love that image, being in the arena instead of the sidelines. All right, before we wrap up completely, David, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with today?
Just this, that gap between understanding and speaking, it's not permanent, and it doesn't mean anything's wrong with you. It's just a bridge you haven't finished building yet, and every single conversation you attempt adds another plank to that bridge.
That's beautiful, honestly. All right, everyone, that wraps up today's episode. Remember, start small, forgive your own mistakes, and just keep talking, even when it feels a little scary.
If today's episode helped even a little bit, share it with a friend who's on the same journey, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
This has been Sarah
And David, signing off from EnglishFB. Keep practicing, and we'll see you soon.